All right, you're in for a treat today. Just wrapped up a conversation with Mike Thornburg, president of Emblemax in Chantilly, Virginia. We had a great conversation about what it means to hustle as an entrepreneur and how Mike has learned to scale his business. You are also going to love to hear his encounter with the Houston Police Department regarding a UPS shipment that got hung up at a center. So hope you enjoy listening as much as we enjoyed having this conversation with Mike Thornburg. So welcome to another episode of the Go With John show. Today, I'm sitting down with Mike Thornburg. So do I call you Mike or Michael?
Mike, yeah,
Mike.
Either one.
I've always called you Mike.
Yeah.
But I've learned from doing this that I've actually been mispronouncing some people's names that I've known for 20 years. And then we sit down. So Mike, so you bought my company that I used to own, Marketing Mania, and you own a company called Emblemax. Tell us a little bit about how did you get into, you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. You and I have known each other now since, when was it, 2004?
Yeah.
Ish. Yeah. So we've known each other for quite a while and we've continued to work together on some projects. And but how did you get into the promotional products industry at Emblemax?
Well, so the journey for me sort of kind of took a lot of different turns and paths. I'm from Adelphi, Maryland, a small town in PG County. Grew up there, and my dad had a sporting goods shop. They sold screen printing, embroidery goods to teams, high schools, clubs. He's a small partner in a sporting goods shop, I should say. And that's kind of where I was babysat as a kid when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years old. I'd go to the sporting goods shop and during the summers and didn't have a babysitter, and that's where I was babysat, my brother and I. And I learned how to screen print and embroider, and you're sitting around there. So my dad would give me like $5 for the work all day, catching shirts, and eventually I learned how to run the embroidery machines and screen printing machines, and it was kind of fascinating.
Yeah. So what do you mean catching shirts? What does that mean?
So when you're screen printing T-shirts, you put the ink on them, you run them through a dryer, which cures the ink on the shirts, and then at the end of it, somebody has to catch the T-shirts.
Take the shirt off the dryer.
Kind of like a pizza conveyor belt when the pizzas come off. Somebody's got to catch the pizza and put it in a box.
Yeah.
So I'd catch the shirts and box them up and put them away, or run errands for other salespeople at the place. So it was very. I didn't realize at the time, but I was sort of learning a trade skill.
Yeah.
And my dad didn't go to college, and I sort of just it was kind of what he did. I learned that skill there. We did. It was pretty exciting because Marlowe's, the name of the company was Marlowe Sports. They've since been sold, but they did uniforms for the Washington Redskins, the Wizards, or it was Bullets back then, the Capitals. So high school, college, professional teams. So it was very exciting. I'd go to Redskin Park and deliver, I guess Washington Football Team Park now or wherever. But I'd go to the park there and see the equipment managers, and we'd constantly be running over uniforms. Back then, the Redskins or the Washington Football Team would send fans over to our company to make them uniforms. If they wanted a Dave Butts jersey, they'd come over to Marlowe and we'd print a Dave Butts jersey. Russell was Sporting Goods did all the uniforms, and we'd print them and we'd send them over to them, and they'd, fans would come in the shop to get Redskin jerseys. Now,
awesome.
Licensing and it's changed a lot. That was years ago.
Right.
This is like in the 80s. But I learned a skill there. I eventually went on to Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Greenbelt, Maryland, and there was a lot of famous people that graduated from that school. And then went to University of Maryland where I met my wife. Yeah. I graduated from there. And actually my first job was like literally right across the street here at Northwestern Mutual in Old Dominion, 6849. So I spent a lot of time in this vicinity right where we are today.
Right. So today we're actually recording in the Long and Foster office in McLean, Virginia. So a lot of people have been asking me, where are you doing your recording? And I'm like, all over the place. Well, can you tell us? So thanks for getting that in. Yeah. So we're in McLean. So you started across the street.
Mm-hmm. So I sold life insurance and disability and financial instruments to people, individuals. My focus was on doctors and lawyers. I sold them disability insurance, life insurance, and work with their investments with Northwestern. It was a great experience. I did that for a couple of years. I spent a lot of time in the local area here. I bought my engagement ring from Diamond Creations, which is right around the corner here. I was a young, like 24, 25-year-old, and I knew nothing. And the gentleman over there who owns that, Harry Siev, kind of taught me like about diamonds and rings and all this stuff we don't know anything about as younger kids. So I have a fond memories of this like area. This is sort of where like I started everything.
Excellent.
My father passed away in 95 when I was working over there. I spent a lot of every single day I'd go to Georgetown Hospital in the Lombardi Clinic to see him. He was there for like 6 months, but he passed away, and I got tired of telling people they're going to die and become disabled. So I just lost all my mojo.
Yeah.
Like it came to like, so I left that Northwestern, and I went to work at a sporting goods shop where my dad was a small partner involved in.
Yeah.
He had passed away. My mom was doing the accounting, so I went to go there just to sort of keep her company. I worked there at Marlowe Sports for probably 6 or 7 years, but I worked there my whole life before that during the summers. And then I moved to Alexandria, Virginia, to handle that territory, selling to clubs, high schools, colleges, professional teams, like their uniforms and sports. And then one day I got stuck on the Wilson Bridge driving home. It was in I want to say it was 1999.
Mm-hmm.
I was driving to, funny, you were from Vienna.
Yeah.
I was driving to Vienna for their select basketball team travel uniforms. We did uniforms. It was the day after Thanksgiving on a Friday. I was, the president of Vienna at the time had ordered uniforms from somebody else. They didn't come in. He called me 4 days before they had these select teams, 160 kids. Mm-hmm. They had tournaments over the Thanksgiving weekend. And he called me 4 days before. He's like, "Hey, can you bail me out? My other provider didn't come through." So I had to get uniforms in, print them myself. Marlowe was closed on that Friday.
Yeah.
I had to come in the morning. I got there at 6 a.m. and printed them till midnight. I ran to Vienna from Marlowe Sports was in Forestville, Maryland. I ran from Forestville to Vienna in the middle of the night. Cell phones were just coming in. I had a Sprint Spectrum in my hand. My phone was burning like off the hook. Yeah. Where are you? I'm like, I'm trying, man. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to make a miracle for you here, but just work with me. Yeah. And I get over there, and I get to the Wilson Bridge at 11:58, 59, and the drawbridge goes up. Oh. The Robinson Terminal, the newspapers from the Washington Post were coming through.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm first in line at the gate, and I'm banging the little gate that came down.
Yeah.
And I just said to myself, God, I just finished crushing myself all day. My cell phone keeps ringing. Right. All these coaches are upset. It's midnight on a Friday night. They have games next day. They don't have uniforms. They're at this guy's house waiting for me.
Yeah.
And it's not my fault. I'm thinking I'm the hero. I should have just said no. And I'm just like, that's when I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, if I'm gonna like print all this stuff, do all this, I'm gonna do it for myself.
Right.
And so, but I don't want to compete with. I eventually get there, deliver the uniforms. Yeah. I think he might have. All the coaches were mad at me, so I'm thinking he must not have told them that I kind of bailed him out here. But either way, I delivered the uniforms. They got them.
And you took the bullet too.
I took the bullet.
Yeah.
But that Monday morning following that, I went into my office and I told the main majority partners of the company, who I respect and love them dearly, I said, I'm giving you my 6-month notice where I'm leaving to go into business for myself. I'm not going to go into the team sporting goods. Yeah. I'm going to go into the corporate market, doing something totally different, like similar. And that's when I left that business to start my first business in '99.
Nice.
Which I had a partner in that business. Started out of my house. Right. We grew it. Started adding the capacity of screen printing, embroidery in-house, a facility in Alexandria.
Did you start screen printing in your house, in your garage?
I insulated the whole garage and had plans to do it. It wasn't zoned for embroidery machines and screen printing, but when you're hustling, I mean, as a kid, I had paper routes and landscaping business I started when I was 14. And so when you're hustling, you just find a way, right? Yeah. I knew a lot about screen printing embroidery. I started outsourcing it, and I wasn't happy with the vendors that I was using because I felt that I knew more about the screen printing embroidery than they did. I'd have in the early days we'd have issues on companies, not our suppliers that are doing the printing for us, our contractors weren't coming through and giving us excuses. And
Well, you couldn't control the timeline.
No,
right, right. So you couldn't tell them, hey, just work an extra couple hours
or
tonight
I'd
to get
say,
it done.
let me in, I'll print all my other stuff in your facility for you. Then I could do that. And
right.
so really, it was very difficult. So bringing it in house is extremely important to me because. When you're hustling, you just want to be able to control everything.
Yeah,
and
it's hard, and I think most folks don't know. And I mean, you and I have a lot in common. From a business ownership perspective, because I started my marketing company in 1997, and I didn't have experience screen printing. But I said to myself, how hard can it be? It's actually a lot harder than you think.
Well, you did a pretty good job. I was at your facility a number of times, and you did a pretty good job.
Yeah, well, that was you. You didn't. I don't think I didn't meet you until 2004-ish, maybe 2003. Well, actually, that's not true, because how I met you, or I met Joe in your company in 1997 when I started Marketing Mania. I didn't have any money, and it's really was a huge turning point in my life. And so I didn't have any money for marketing, and I started this company, Marketing Mania, out of my house just like you did, and I was all by myself. I didn't have anybody at all helping me, and I went out and just started door knocking. And back then I think it was a lot easier to solicit in office buildings, but I went around Tyson's Corner, I went around Herndon, I was walking every day, every single day I went out, and I went through so much shoe leather. I had a pair of Johnson & Murphy wingtips, and I wore them out, and I got them resold and resold and resold. And then the guy that was doing my shoes says, this is the last time, I can't resole them again. You got to get another pair. So I got a new pair and wore them out. Now, all this happened over, 2 or 3 years. But I actually cold called on your company to try to sell you what you do. So I walked in and I was talking to Joe, and he was standing there, really nice guy. He's not saying anything, and I'm telling him what I'm doing and all that. And he pretty much said, that's good, John, but that's what we do. So Joe brought me in and showed me the facility, and I actually started doing business with you guys. We so it's really amazing, how everything played out. And you eventually ended up buying my company. So it's just really amazing that I met you guys. What was the name of your company originally? It wasn't Emblemax at the time, was it? It was it was
Jam Graphics.
Jam Graphics.
Yeah. So I left the business I founded. I used Jam Graphics created this software called Shopworks. It's used by 600 other companies in our industry to run their production facilities. So it's really it was really awesome stuff back then. And so I left my old company. We had used their software when I first started. I went to Jam Graphics, and they had this software called Shopworks, sorry.
Right.
And I purchased it for my old first company. I used it, and I'd met Joe and another guy, Jay, that owned Jam Graphics back then. When I sold my business in 2003, I came to Jam Graphics. I was gonna start another one, similar business, and start from scratch and do the same thing all over again after I sold my other business. And they said, "Would you like to buy this business?" And I created a company called Emblemax, and I said, "Well." And I don't know. And I talked to Joe, and Joe said, what are your guys' plans? And Jay, the owner of Jam Graphics, well, the software side of the business is just exploding. So I'm going to dedicate full time to that. I've been doing it anyway. It's just time, because software is obviously a little more lucrative as far as margins go than many other industries.
Right.
So, and I said, Joe, what are you going to do? And he goes, well, I'm going to go into real estate. Oddly enough. And I was like, well, real estate. And I said, well, I don't know a ton about this business, but I do know you, Joe. And Joe's an incredible guy. He just knows a lot about the industry, knows more about screen printing embroidery than I do. And I don't meet many of those people in our industry. And I said, well, I will purchase this company so I don't have to start over from scratch and building facilities, but only if you stay. And so I convinced him to forego his real estate career and stay. And then that was, 18 years ago in 2003. And he's amazing. And I added another partner to our business, got him Kevin Cohn from my former company. So we have some incredible people there. And so in 2006, I guess, you've been doing contract work with for a couple of years, and I always admired how you ran your business. I guess you came from a different perspective, I grew up screen printing and throwing ink on shirts all day, whereas you, this was new to you, so you learned it from a different angle, and you were much more into the strategic marketing and sales part of the side of the business.
Right.
Whereas I think I get caught up sometimes in the making sure we get the production done, which hinders your sales and marketing efforts.
Yeah. Well, it's really tough when you're a small company. Yeah. And you know, because I was doing all the sales for my organization. So I would go out and sell. And then the guys that I had hired to do the production couldn't keep up. So then I would end up in the production side of it for a period of time trying to catch up. So there was this constant oscillation of, you know, feast or famine. We had too much work to do, not enough work to do. And it's really tough when you're small. So you figured out how to do it. But so let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to hear some of your stories about what it's like to be an entrepreneur.
All right. This is Mike Thornburg, president of Emblemax Corporation. We're a vertical decorator of t-shirts and promotional products. We create effective branding solutions and deliver them fast. Let your business speak for itself so people who see you today remember you tomorrow. Visit us at emblemax.com, EMBLEMAX.com.
Hey, we're back with Mike, owner of Emblemax in Chantilly. So, Mike, tell us, what is it like? Everybody always thinks as business owners that we're sitting in the back office, we got our feet up on the desk, and we're not really doing a lot of stuff. Tell us, what is it like from your perspective to be a small business owner? What is your life like?
Well, the small business, obviously, as you know, it's all consuming. I mean, I think as we get older, we start realizing the importance of spending more time with family. You never regret spending more time with your kids and your family. So that's something we all learn. But in the realm of business, I've been hustling all my life. And that's one of the detriments to growth of our business. And you could do a paper route, you could do a landscaping business, you can do a promotional products business, a screen printing embroidery business, or real estate. You can hustle and be successful in almost anything in life, I've learned. It could be investments, it could be anything. But you reach a plateau when you're constantly hustling that you can't scale. And that's been the challenge of my whole life. When an employee has an issue and needs something, that's the most urgent thing. When a customer has a major issue, that's the most important thing. And right. And when you're hustling, you chase all those things, and you're constantly keeping everybody happy. And the urgent, there's tons of books on books on this. But when you're constantly chasing the urgent, it's very difficult to scale a business. And I've been hustling my whole life and successful at a lot of things. But my biggest challenge has been scaling.
Yeah.
And I've learned a few things that I'm still always learning and trying to get better at as far as like scaling. One of the most important things I learned, and it's unfortunately it's taken all the way to this pandemic to sort of teach me this even more. When you have a little bit more time to reflect, is it's very important to create and communicate clarity to the organization. Mm-hmm. And that's something I hadn't been doing previously. I've just been handling things myself, doing it, and then you reach a ceiling because you never get anything done. And so I haven't had clarity and I haven't communicated what we're doing as a company, which helps create, if you do that, you create alignment. Everybody's rowing in the same direction. For example, this year in the pandemic, my focus was to pay every employee the entire time, even the hourly employees that work in our production that may average 35 to 38 hours a week. I paid them 40 hours every single week of 2020 during the pandemic.
Right.
And that was important to me. And it was kind of important that our employees knew that's our goal. We're going to lose a lot of money last year. Thinking this.
Right.
We're going to lose a lot of money last year because some of our industries we work with are hurting. Some are doing great.
Yeah.
We see the broad spectrum of different businesses.
Right.
And it's sad and exciting all at the same point to watch some businesses booming, but some businesses are really hurting. But our goal was I wanted to pay all their employees and make them feel secure for the whole pandemic. And luckily we've done well enough the previous few years that we had some money in the bank to do that.
Right.
And I'm not sure that everybody appreciated that, but I think they do. I think the government was fighting us by handing out big checks for people that weren't working, which kind of had some tough effects on small businesses, because I'm fighting against the government to keep people employed, which was very difficult there for a while, because I'd get pushback. Well, if I wasn't working, I'd be getting almost just as much, and that was tough.
So did your folks work, or did you lose anybody? Did anybody?
We didn't really lose anybody during the pandemic. We didn't lose anybody during the pandemic.
Right.
But I did get some pushback for some employees when the federal government started handing out, was it $600 a week? And it's kind of like, maybe some of their friends or other people were home doing nothing, collecting checks.
Right.
And they're having to come into work. I didn't make, during the pandemic, we ebbed and flowed how much we went for a couple people in a shift at a time. Maybe 2 or 3 people would come in a day, and we'd alternate who would come in, but they all got paid 40 hours a week, everybody, full time. But it was tough fighting the government.
Right.
You can't win, right?
Yeah.
And so that was tough, but over time they realized I'm still going to have a job. So that kind of went away.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the things too. And I think folks don't realize, and you kind of have the same role that I had in my company, where you're going out and you're meeting with the customers. You're on the front line with the customer. And when you sit down with a customer, they don't really want to hear. Yeah. Now, actually, you don't even want to really share, like, what are the real world problems you're dealing with back at your shop. So you got to go out and put on a happy face and sit down and take orders and offer ideas. And you got to be creative, and you got to bring things to the table that people are going to get excited about buying, and at the same time you're trying to hold your whole organization together back in the shop. So that's definitely tough. And now tell me about like vacations and things like that. So when you were starting out 2004, 5, 6, 7, how often did you take vacation? What was your situation?
It was tough, especially when in the first business, when you're really hustling. I left my first that sporting goods job and went into business for myself, and a partner. Yeah. There's just a lot of pressure to keep going. That was in the '99 was the height of the .com bubble. And bust. And we actually did extremely well. We did extremely well during that time frame. But it was a lot of pressure to keep going, and we didn't take vacations. And when we did take vacations, my family, my wife and I, we would go somewhere kind of local, and I'd always be like, joining them a day later. My wife had a daughter at the time. I'd join them a day later, and I was always late to the vacation. So finally, she wised up and said, "Hey, I'm booking a flight somewhere, so you have to be on the flight." And so then it became not joining them. A day later, a car ride away. I'd have to be on the plane at a certain time. And the funny thing is, I'd have to pull all-nighters that night before, just to get that flight. I'd literally leave my office and meet them at the airport and fly off somewhere for a week. So that was the only way she could get me away. Right. Because it's hard. I mean, you're responsible for everything, and when you're bootstrapping and you're just getting started, it's all back on you. If you don't have the money to pay the bills, and what do you do? So and you use the word hustle a lot. I think I agree with that. I think there's probably a lot of younger folks out there that don't really realize, what that means. But when you're starting a business and everything is on you, there's a level of anxiety, and there's excitement, and there's like an adrenaline like pulsing through your veins, literally 24 hours a day. You probably wake up in the middle of the night sometimes, especially when you were starting, with ideas and, I can do this, I can do that. And you want to, you get back to your desk and you're working, but it just never, it never shuts down. I think anybody who has gone through what you've gone through, or what I've gone through to start a business and get it off the ground and keep it running, you've got to put in that 7 days a week for years, right? And you kind of feel like it's never going to end, right? Don't you? And you get into that grind, and you, I think, care deeply
And I think everybody who's successful cares deeply about what they're doing, right? My doctor cares deeply about my health. I think you care deeply about your customers in real estate and in business. I care deeply about making sure that my clients get the best service that I can offer. And I think you've got a couple of great stories. One you just told me before we fired up the microphones about how how your business interfered with your life, and you had to fly to Houston. So tell us a little bit, and I guess I'm trying to paint a picture for the folks out there of what kind of sacrifices do you have to make if you want to be a successful business owner, right? So you're at a barbecue, and what's going on at your house?
It's in the 2007 or 8-ish time frame.
Right.
We're at a barbecue and
at your house.
And God bless my wife for hanging with me through all this thing. She's amazing. She's a software executive, and she's like, it's a whole different world that she lives in than I do as a small business owner. But so we're at my house at a barbecue. I invite a couple of friends in the neighborhood over, and one of the gentlemen coming over happens to be a chef, so it kind of worked out okay. So I'm just starting to grill some things for a barbecue. On Saturday night, Saturday night. And the guests get there, I get this phone call, and we had a client that I'm not sure if they still do this, but they're still around. But they used to launch all the multi-billionaires who'd pay $20-30 million to go in a rocket into space. And when the space program here kind of dwindled down a little bit during the 2000s, a lot of these billionaires would go over to Russia, and they launch these rockets out of Russia, and they'd go into space and do their thing for a little while. But so we had one client that needed some patches for this multi-billionaire that was going into space. And they had ordered from another place. The patches are mostly made overseas in China, and you can do them domestically, but they're very expensive and they take a long time because we don't have the capacity in this country as they do over there and overseas. So they gave me like 4 days notice to get patches in because their other supplier didn't come through. And I told them it's going to be tight. We have to get them over the volume you want, 500 patches with this big logo on it that's going to go on the side of the space flight suits. They got to come over from China. They're going to arrive in Houston on Saturday. That was the last day. The flight doctor that was headed over to Moscow, that's the last person from the U.S. to go over because they have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. So once they're in quarantine, no one can be around them so they don't get sick or anything before they launch up into the rockets. So the flight doctor was leaving Houston on Saturday, and so those patches had to be there to his house so he could physically take them over to Moscow. So everything was good. UPS somehow didn't come through. The patches got stuck in the Houston distribution facility on a Saturday. And I get this phone call Saturday night. The patches didn't get there. And it was a client that did a fair amount of business with us, a pretty significant amount. Great client. But they were desperate. I said, well, okay, the patches didn't get there, so we'll work on this on Mondays. Because no, they have to we have a person with a Moscow passport. We have to have the patches. I was like, well, do you have to have the patches, or can you just get the patches a little bit later? But they were desperate, and
so they basically had to have those patches on Sunday. At the airport.
They had to have them. They just had to have them in Moscow as soon as possible because all the crew were going into quarantine in Moscow, probably that Monday or Tuesday.
Gotcha.
So they didn't have to have them over the weekend, but they had to get them there.
So there was a person in Houston from this organization with a Russian passport.
No, they sent somebody from the D.C. area with a Russian passport down to Houston to
meet
me. Because I told him
But wait a second, you were in Alexandria.
I was in Alexandria, Virginia, and taking a step back, the patches to these people they're spending millions and millions of dollars are a huge deal. Apparently, like they had to have these patches, and because they hand them out to their comrades before they go into space on their mission, and it's just hugely important to them. So it means the world. So a couple $1 patch is not a couple $1 patch, and that's why we were doing all this. But so I head down to Houston. They were their last track in the distribution facility in Houston. I head down there. It's
so you leave your barbecue.
I leave my barbecue. Sorry,
and
I hand the spatula over to the chef. I was like, "Here, you're in charge of this. I'm out of here. I apologize. Nice knowing you."
Right. No explanations to anybody really. You just like, I gotta go.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Okay.
My wife looks at me. She just knew. I had to go. So I felt.
So you go to the airport.
I go to the airport.
Buy your ticket at the airport.
Yeah, I fly out. I fly out Sunday morning, like first thing, as the first ticket I could get Sunday morning. I get down to Houston sometime in the evening.
Yeah.
And that Sunday night, the UPS facilities is closed. There's no movement there at all.
Right.
That Sunday night, I was aware that the packers and the distribution folks from the UPS facility arrive at 3 a.m. at the Houston distribution facility to do their sorting before the
So now we're
trucks.
3 a.m. Monday morning.
We're 3 a.m. Monday morning. I go to the Valero gas station. I'm walking around like a father waiting for a baby to be born.
Yeah.
To go over to the UPS facility to find this box with these patches, because I know it had been tracked there last, scanned, and I knew it was there. And I was fearful that the trucks, whatever, that leave the UPS facility would go out and I'd lose it.
Yeah, but hold on. So you're at the Valero gas station.
Yeah.
And who do you run into?
So there's a few officers there, just kind of
police officers
shooting the breeze.
And you knew you were potentially getting ready to commit a crime.
Yeah, I mentioned the gentleman's name who was flying into space.
Yeah.
I told him his life story.
Yeah.
I was like, he's got 500 patches over there, 1 mile away at that distribution facility.
Right. And you told him, I'm going to get him and you may be getting a call. You told the cops.
I told the police officers there, I was like, look, I'm going over there. I have to, you understand, I'm desperate. I have to have these patches.
Yeah.
They were actually kind of helpful. And they said, well, one of them knew somebody that worked in the sorting.
Yeah.
And they said they do get there like 3:30 in the morning to do their sorting.
Right.
Before the rest of the staff come in.
Right.
So he even told me the time like the employees go in. So that was like great news. So I was like, sweet, I'm using this to go in the employee entrance like at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I said, well, if you get a call or something, you know it's about, I have to have these patches. Once I have the patches, I don't care what happens to me. I just got to have these patches. Like, please, just. And so, they were just kind of tongue in cheek. Yeah. So I had a rental car. I headed over to the UPS facility. It was like 3:30, 4 in the morning.
Right.
I went in the employee entrance.
Yeah.
They kind of see me in there. I don't have a badge or anything.
Right.
And the manager.
But what'd you do with your car? You had a rental car.
So I took the rental car. Actually, I was fearful that these trucks were going to leave and they might have my patches. And this, because the customer was sending like a person with a Moscow passport. They were flying down to meet me, assuming I'm going to track down these patches.
Right.
And so I had to have these patches.
Right.
So I took the rental car and I blocked the exit where the tractor trailers leave.
Right.
I was just fearful. I don't know what would happen. Maybe they were scanned there. Maybe they're in this truck. Maybe they leave. And so I blocked the exit where the tractor trailers leave the sort to head out to the local distribution places or maybe head back to other places. So nobody can leave there. Nothing, the patches can't possibly leave there. I was just so I was going to heck these patches. And so I head over in the facility. I start freaking them out. Finally, the manager was like, you got to get out of here. And I was like, well, can I come back and help look for the patches? You understand, I told her the story. I was like, I got to have these patches. I got to have these patches. So she calls the police because I wouldn't leave.
Right.
They come over.
Now, was it the same cops that were at the Valero?
I didn't recognize any of the police officers, but I think they had known about the story, so maybe they must have talked.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize.
They had radios.
Yeah. I didn't recognize any of the police officers that came over.
Right.
But they actually took me and said, "Sir, you're going to have to They must have known the manager because sir, you're going to have to leave this facility." They escorted me out, move your rental car, and they didn't arrest me, but they escorted me with me, got me out of the facility, made me move my car and exit the premises. The manager said, "I have your cell phone number. I'm going to call you as soon as we find these patches."
Right.
And I was like, "Please, please, please, just I'm be sitting over there." And the police officer says, "Why don't you head over to that, over to the gas station and wait for her call?" And I was
back
like,
to the Valero.
And then finally eventually at 6 a.m. They found them, and I opened up in front of the whole staff at UPS. It was like a huge celebration. And open. I gotta tell you, opening that box, making sure they weren't the business, right?
Yeah,
making sure they weren't misprinted or something. Oh my God, that's a whole nother thing, right? I'm like,
the wrong colors.
Please have the spelling right and everything on here. Oh gosh. So I grabbed the patches and I head over to the airport in Houston, and I meet the envoy I hand them to him, escort him to the tarmac, watch his plane take off.
Wait, did they buy you a ticket? Right.
So they bought me back then. It was you're allowed to go through the ticketing. You can't even get on to the. I think I bought the ticket
to the flight to Moscow.
Yeah. No. I just bought a ticket to get. I think I bought a cheap ticket somewhere to get on that concourse, so I could go with them and physically watch the plane take off, which I did through the window.
That's dedication.
Yeah, well, I just you don't go through all that to you just
have them have the envoy miss the flight
exactly, or something. And that guy, as soon as he left, I called them and said, "Hey, he's taking off. It's flight."
Yeah.
And so that was, and really you don't really get too much out of that, but I made a client tremendously happy. I mean, they don't know the backstory of all the things. They don't know, they probably don't remember that they ordered them from somewhere else. They didn't come through, but they do remember how they feel when you do something for them like that. Right. And so that person, that company's still a client today.
And you know what? And how much did you charge them for all this extra service?
The patches were cut. I didn't charge them anything. The patches were, I can't remember at the time, but it was like a $3 to $4 patch. Nothing.
Right. So $1,500.
Nothing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you bought the plane ticket to get down there, the plane ticket to get back, and you went through, almost got arrested, and bought another ticket to watch the patches get on the plane. But see, that's what it takes.
Yeah,
that's what it takes.
People don't forget that either.
Yeah, your client will never forget it. But I think most folks out there that you run into every day don't realize what you're doing, right? And then you go back to work on, I guess you don't get back to work till Tuesday, and this was this big monumental deal to you, but now you just got to go back and deal with people calling in sick, and somebody wants Friday off, and but that's what it is to be a business owner. It's a pretty amazing story. You should be really.
I mean, there's tons of the stories like that. I mean, when I first bought the business in 2000, the current business, or Jam Graphics, when I bought that business. About 2 years into our business as Emblemax, I had an employee embezzling money, and in those situations, it's all of a sudden, it's like all the other employees come out with pitchforks.
Yeah,
and I was like, no, we got to resolve this problem, and it turns out that employee eventually, they paid back all the money in its entirety, and that was more important, getting the money back than teaching this person a lesson.
Right.
We had white collar crimes. It was everything. This person could have gone to jail for a long, long time. Yeah. And they didn't. I mean, but they paid some consequences. But it wasn't about teaching them a lesson. Wasn't more important than taking care of our employees and getting the money back. Yeah. Because that's our employees' money and their raises and their bonuses and their things. Right. And that was the most important. And so we got through that situation as well.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I rember that. That went on.
It was probably
on.
It was probably the time frame of when we acquired your business, marketing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what other kinds of things do you? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, I want to hear a couple more stories and some of the big lessons you may have learned.
Sure.
A lot of folks think that building a custom home is a complicated and arduous process. It doesn't have to be. At Stanley Martin Custom Homes, we have the process down to a science. We will bring you through the buying, design, and building phase one step at a time. Head on over to webuildonyourlot.com and check us out. Reach out to us if you want to get started on the path to your very own Stanley Martin Custom Home. All right, we're back with Mike Thornburg, Emblemax. So, Mike, let's talk a little bit about lessons you've learned. And I think one of the things that you said you had a lot of struggles with over the years is scaling. What are some of the things you've done to be able to scale? Because scaling, you are.
Well, So, I mean, my whole life, just through different businesses, I've you find a way, right? So you're hustling your whole life.
You figure it out.
Yeah, you find a way, figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case for most entrepreneurs as you get going. And there's other folks that do a lot better in scaling from the beginning. You know, there's folks that have never really got in the trenches at a small business. They graduate with some credible degree and they're given venture capital money, and that's a whole different realm that I've never experienced.
Right.
But but scaling has been my biggest challenge, because you want to kind of get things done and do things. And what I've learned is the importance, and I kind of mentioned earlier, was during the pandemic, that we have a chance to take a step back. And I'm constantly evolving and working on this, and I'm not there yet, but it's exciting, the fact that I've come to the realization what I need to do to get there, to scale my business now. And we've done a good job, but not a great job of scaling. And so, but the first thing is most important is to create and communicate clarity to our employees and get them all aligned in the same direction. And that's the first thing. And the second, and I kind of touched on that briefly earlier, but the second thing, and I kind of had this backwards, it's more important to assemble like an all-star cast before you start trying to create the system or to set the system to organize, or the processes. Because if you start with the processes first, which I used to do, you end up doing everything yourself and nothing gets done.
Right.
And so that's what I kind of had backwards, that it took me forever to learn. And I feel like I'm working in progress every single day.
We all are.
Yeah. And we have an incredible team where I am right now. And I'm trying more to embrace the rock stars that we have.
Right.
And get them all on board and aligned and communicate clear and concisely what we're doing, and then build our systems together.
Right.
And I just had it all backwards. I thought I had the answers. I thought I could work on the systems, the processes. And again, you never get anything done, so everything's in chaos.
Right.
And this is my evolution that I'm constantly going through. I'm going through now, but I'm extremely excited, because I think I finally, I've got 1 year experience 40 years, right?
Right.
So it's just, I finally got it. I finally get it. And so this is what I'm working on. And as I watch luckily we have hundreds and thousands of clients, and not 100,000 clients, but hundreds or thousands of clients. And it's wonderful watching all these different businesses scale. And the one thing they have in common is they bring these all-star teams together, and then they build the processes.
Right.
And I've had one entrepreneur client of mine in the software-related business that probably did 5 or 6 different businesses, and he sold 2 of his businesses for hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's just amazing to watch some of our clients grow. And I had one company that did wheel resurfacing, that started out with one truck that does wheel resurfacing, like metal wheels on cars, aluminum wheels, I guess I should say. And now they have like 70. And so it's just wonderful to watch these businesses scale.
Right.
And the one thing they all have in common is they have a clear and concise direction. They build their all-star teams, and then they get the processes down. And when you do that out of order, that's when you spend your whole life hustling.
Right.
And that's what kind of.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. One of the guys in my sphere that I talk to all the time, he says, if you have the right people, the processes don't really matter that much.
Sure.
And if you have incapable people, the best processes in the world won't fix that. So, yeah, you're right. It is.
I think Jim Collins in his book, built to last. That's kind of like the theme of that book, and it's most definitely true. I mean, you need the rock stars, the A players first,
right?
Before you start, working on those processes.
Right. So what else? What else have you done to scale? Any other tips for the folks that may be listening?
I mean, those are the main things, and I think you got to understand your strengths and weaknesses, and my strengths are, my weaknesses are I'm always chasing the shiny object. The latest urgent thing, whether it's an employee matter or this or that, I'm always chasing that. And if you have the all-stars in place, they keep you focused, they keep you in line. And some of my mentors in my life, or my father was my greatest mentor, because he just worked hard.
Right.
And I learned a lot from just hustling from him. My other mentor would be my wife, actually. She runs a division of a software company of a $400 million budget she's in charge of, and employees. And it's just amazing to watch her scale, and her strengths are just complete opposite of mine. And it's just really interesting to watch these people, how they scale and how they do approach things a little bit differently. One of the things we're kind of off topic here of scaling, but one of the things in business for me is helping other people.
Right.
And I have success stories. I have employees that are from, I think we have 4, maybe 5 continents covered of employees from different parts of the world, and it's amazing. And you do job interviews for people. That's normal. I have one employee that started with me in, I believe it was 2009, paid $9 an hour, had no skill whatsoever, but just a hard worker. He's still with me today. And this person, chasing the American dream, watching these people, helping these people, he just bought his first house 2 years ago.
Wow.
And the story with it, and it's just amazing to watch when you can help people like that.
Yeah.
It's more empowering and better than anything I could ever do for myself.
Right.
And this individual, the funny story about this individual, I got a call one day about 6 or 7 years ago, and I was getting interviewed by his prospective bride's family. That kind of guy this way. I'm used to employee interviews, but here I am getting interviewed by his prospective bride. In their culture, you know, they have to interview to see if the daughter of the family is a good fit for this person.
Right,
so
right. Did he at least warn you were going to get that
he did.
phone call?
Because he's from Bangladesh.
Yeah.
It's a role reversal. I'm used to like interviewing employees for jobs, but I wasn't, talking about him in relation to is he good for some bride? Is like, that was very interesting. But he gave me a forewarning, and it was very interesting how you have a father, a brother calling about their daughter, their sibling.
Yeah.
And they're
was it just one call or 2 separate calls?
There was different calls.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they're very protective of their.
Yeah. They're not joking around.
No. And you feel responsible for that. That changes how you look at your employee. Like I became his family member at that point. Like, because I'm standing up for him as a great person chasing the American dream. Yeah. And is he good for this? And I have no idea, but he's a great person. And so it was very interesting.
But and that's one of the amazing. And I'll tell you, Mike. I'll tell you, Mike. This is one of the main reasons I wanted to do this podcast. This is you asked me before we started recording, why do you want to do this? And I think the big driver for me is stories like that. And I said it yesterday during a session we were recording. Everybody's got a story, and especially when you're in the DC metro area, we have so many cultures and so many people from all over the world, and you learn so much about I did not even know that was a thing that you would call and check up on a potential spouse in a culture. So that's it's
it was
really
eye-opening,
amazing.
and I felt honored. I mean, wow, this is this person's life, and so that was amazing.
But see, those are the things that people don't realize. When you own a business and you're out there on the front line and you're providing service and you're interacting with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people every year, the experiences and the stories you get and the situations and the things you learn from people is just mind-boggling. And it's really amazing. So any last thoughts you have about or any final words of wisdom you may have to a young Mike Thornburg out there who's thinking, I might want to start my own business, or I want to be an entrepreneur? And before you answer that, I want to say, it seems like the world is really different today. I don't run into a lot of people who are out there, use the word hustling a lot. And really, hustling is really just working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, and trying to make the best of every minute of every day, and really being focused and driven. You're in the marketing business. Are you running into young people that are working like you used to work and like I used to work? Are you running into that, or is it?
Yes, I am. And the reason why I use that term is because the successful, and the great thing is in our business, I get this touch. I mean, in the real estate business, we have real estate agent clients, we have mortgage bankers, we have settlement firms, we have tons of clients in every arena you can imagine, and it's wonderful you're on the pulse of what's working in those industries. Yeah. But the most successful businesses that we've worked with in the last number of years, and I use the word hustling because we're watching those folks. It's the gentleman who had the company that started from one truck resurfacing wheels to like 75, or a gentleman who came in one day and was going to do, in a t-shirt business where, it's probably 50% of our business is t-shirt related and marketing stuff as well. There's a gentleman that came in about 6 or 7 years ago, and he wanted to start a t-shirt line. Well, we get about 5 or 7 phone calls per week of somebody's going to start a t-shirt line.
Right.
And I warn them, like, it's all about the marketing. Like, anybody can print a t-shirt, this or that. It's about marketing, what you're going to do with it. And this gentleman really was like using social media, digital marketing, and really hustling. I use the word hustling again because you watch him every single day. He's posting on Instagram and everything, and really marketing his product and for a certain target audience. And he's built his brand. He takes up about 1,000 to 1,500 square foot of one of our warehouses of just his t-shirts now. He has it's a DC centric product he sells with stuff related to the DC market and area, and he's doing tremendously well. And it's just wonderful watching him. I use the word hustle again.
Right.
He might, during the pandemic, he might need 2,500 masks for a thing, and luckily he's connected to our facility where we do the production, where we can produce 10,000 t-shirts a day easily, and so he has that resource. But he started in the early days and started marketing his product, and everything has done tremendously well. And so watching these small businesses, the ones that are successful, are the ones that are out there. I hate using that term again, but they're hustling. But
no, it's not a bad term. I just
eventually
think
you have to be able to scale, and so you can't do it all yourself. And that's where your star players come in.
Yeah. So what is your advice to the young entrepreneur today that wants to go out and start a company today, or they've started in the last year or two? Do you have any words of wisdom for them? Unless
you're going to get some venture capital, some mega millions thrown your way, and create a SPAC or something, or you're going to have a SPAC come and save you, which I don't know anything about that realm. As an investor, I'm familiar with it, but I mean, all I've ever known is old school grit, grind, and work.
And hustle.
You bootstrap, and you do it yourself. And I know, John, watching you amongst many of your businesses, you've been successful at every single one. And the recurring theme is you got to get out there and do it. I mean, it's a lifestyle. It's you got to live and breathe it, and you got to love it. And if you love it, you never worked. I've never worked a day in my life. I print T-shirts, or I have people that print T-shirts for a day. Like, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that'll work. Are you kidding? I mean, the work part of it is
you work
dealing with the the employees and the issues and things like that. But like, I mean, I get to come in and we have clients across the board, like the biggest banks to the real estate. Our client base, we have 5 universities that we do all their marketing of their uniforms and things that come in from Nike or Under Armour. We print them and send them back. But the biggest thing is, like, you got to do something that you love. And I didn't realize that I love this t-shirt business until it reverted back to my childhood. That's what I grew up in, printing t-shirts for my dad.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've been doing now, because I didn't realize I love it, because I tried, entering the financial world, which I enjoy helping people plan for their financial future. But you do something you love, you never worked a day in your life, right? And so that's the biggest thing. Advice I'd give to young entrepreneurs out there: find something you love or something you're good at.
Right.
And if you can find both, you're set.
Yep. That's great. And I would just add, just like you weren't going to let anything get in between you and getting those patches on that plane to Moscow, I would say to the young folks out there, don't let anything get in between you and your success.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing.
The American dream is alive and well. If you want it, just go get it. Yeah.
Excellent. Mike Thornburg, Emblemax, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you, John, for having me.
All right. Hey, Mike Thornburg, thank you so much for coming in. A lot of great stories and information there. We appreciate it. If you want to learn more about Mike and his company, Emblemax, you can find him at emblemax.com, EMBLEMAX.com. Go out and build something extraordinary.